dick chariot.
That's the issue you take with this? Out of everything that we just talked about, that's the issue you're taking. Not the generator that someone for some reason thought was a good idea that inexplicably takes undetermined amounts of energy from a mysterious dueling force that apparently exists in both positive and negative forms. Space aliens exist. People from the future came back in time to tell us that dueling screwed up the universe and that they're going to solve it by doing more duels. Apparently they confused together because they're part robot, part human, not really sure if they're dual monsters. And apparently their genitalia can transform. Out of all of that, you went after the Wang Brigade.
You know, I've always been the one explaining that shit. I've never actually heard it.
Swords of revealing light. Fuck that. Like, fuck that. I'm gonna destroy every single card on the field. Screw you. And now you're gonna die. From fish. You bitch.
Die from fish. You know, one thing I never understood in the show is, like, okay, even inside Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, there's like the monsters are still holograms, right?
Not yes and no.
Most of the time. Each season sort of has a way to make them real. In 5Ds,
okay, that would explain why someone's trying to arrest me with a duel.
Oh no, that's always been made no sense.
Okay, so I'm right. This makes no sense. Why is a police officer like, pull over or I'll beat you to death with my hologram?
They do try to explain it in 5Ds, but it doesn't make sense from the bottom, and it continues to not make sense as you work up. But the bottom level explanation is the city they're in is generated or is run by a generator that pulls the positive energy that is generated from duels.
What the actual balls?
And that's not like something they just mentioned. That is a critical plot point to the story. Because
how does that even happen? How does that, like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, who engineered that, went through all the mathematics and inventing it took to do that and decided, this is an effective way to run a city?
No. See, that question of who thought this was a good idea is important because the reactor in the city right now is the second one. The first one was in the satellite where all of the, like, reject slaves and people are now, and it's destroyed because the first reactor they built basically went nuclear and ripped the city in half. And they're like, well, let's try it again.
That's smart.
But no. Like, the concept design for this, like, someone sitting as an engineer, people are conceptualizing the idea for powering a city. They would have to look at that and specifically say, how can we make this city run off card games? That makes no sense. So even in the context of a Yu-Gi-Oh show.
Electricity be damned. You don't need that shit.
It gets to the point that you have to imagine this from a show perspective. Do you have any idea how often main characters are dueling and there's some scientist in the background screaming, "The generator's overloading, she can't take it!"
I can't do it, Captain! I don't have enough power!
It's all the goddamn time.
I can imagine, like, someone, like, the president, like, the mayor of this city walks into a room with engineers and is like, alright, boys, we got dual discs and we got slaves, what can we do? So just so I got this concept down.
Yeah.
The city was built. Okay,
Yeah.
so the city is powered by a generator that absorbs the positive energy from dueling.
Yes.
Which implies that there's a negative energy?
Yes,
Am I right? Like matter, antimatter kind of thing?
Yes, when the first reactor exploded, it flooded the satellite with that negative energy. And that's the excuse for all the people who are not in the satellite. That's why they're okay with the satellite people basically being slaves, because they think they're all assholes because of this negative energy.
Wait. So people can absorb negative energy.
I guess.
So
like,
wait,
only,
what is
only
it?
the people
I'm
at the
confused.
top
Is this,
know
are we
this
talking like
happened.
energy is like positive? Like, are we talking like energy is in like electrons, like electrical energy? Are we talking like
Do
mystical?
you really think they went
heart
that
of the-
far?
Okay, so we're talking like mystical heart of the cards type thing, right?
Yeah. Sort of, yeah.
How do
pretty
you
much.
power a city with that?
I don't know, but it's like the very first time the scientist pops on and like starts. By the way, the scientist is fucking fantastic. But the first time he pops on and starts explaining it, he calls the thing a perpetual energy machine. The more it spins, the more energy it generates, causing it to spin faster.
Why? would
That's
you-
bad.
What?
That's bad.
That's why.
God damn.
That's why they have overloading problems.
Why would you decide it that way twice?
Why would?
Let
Who
alone
thought this was
once.
a good idea? Like, no, what was wrong? Like, did the engineers get high one day and decide, let's do this?
Well, okay, no, because this actually sort of ties in. They mention many times that this series is like way after. It's almost post-apocalyptic after the other two shows, right? And
Okay.
so if you imagine you're in a world where this fucking card game is like the only major sport in existence, or the only one that anyone cares about, and everyone plays it constantly, it starts to make a little bit more sense that you'd at least want to try and get
doesn't.
something out of that.
If it was post-apocalyptic, I'd be looking at history and be like, you know what? Yu-Gi-Oh played duels, didn't really work out. Yu-Gi-Oh played duels, that didn't really work out. Now we have slaves, and now we have a city powered by duels. This isn't looking good.
No, I can.
That would be my thought.
I
That
can
would be
top
my
you.
thought.
I can top that story, because that story is pretty stupid, but that's the first season, and it's not that bad. The second season is where the writers absolutely shit the bed. Because, so, throughout the whole season, you're seeing these white-cloaked, mysterious motherfuckers cackling at themselves about how they're, like, absorbing power from the Duel network. I'll just let that statement hang for one moment.
Wait. The dual network. Are we talking like the World Wide Web network? Like there's
No,
like
it's like a power grid, a separate power grid that they're charging through duels.
This is the best analogy I like based off the information. So they are sticking a knife inside the outlet. Is that
Not
is
it more
or am
so,
I thinking, or
the
is
way
that
they
way too
describe
direct?
it's they have their own dual generator that they're charging off of people. Like
Okay, so does the generator just have to be in close proximity to duels, or does it have to be plugged into something?
no idea. Doesn't matter. That's not the stupid part.
Okay, are you sure? Because I feel like that's rather crucial.
No. Just, this is gonna take a little bit of build up, but I promise it's worth it because I had to fucking headbang for a while after they revealed shit. So these guys, when they finally start dueling, they use an archetype known as the Mech Lords. There's these giant machines, and their whole shtick is that they're anti-synchro. Okay, all of their effects are about fucking synchro monsters, right?
All right.
And there's an old bastard, a middle-aged bastard, and a young kid. That's these three sort of guys that are doing this. And at the end of it, when they're finally, like, they've beaten a bunch of them and they're coming down to the final epic duel, the three of them transform and meld together to create a slightly middle-aged man who reveals that he is from the future, which has been completely destroyed thanks to dueling. And it was destroyed by mech lords that they are currently using in their decks, but not cards. Real ones came from outer space and destroyed everything because of
Okay, hold
dueling.
on, stop, hold on. There are so many things wrong with that. First off, let's break down that first part. Dueling destroyed the Earth, so their solution to this was to travel back in time and duel people.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So there's your first thing. Secondly, space aliens exist.
Apparently.
Thirdly,
they're a
so
plot
fucking
point in
human
GX2.
beings fuse.
Sorry, what?
Since when were human beings able to fuse? I think Jaden did it with somebody back in like the Dark Realm or something.
Yeah, he did, but that was soul thing.
That's not, I'm assuming that's not related.
No, these guys are like part android.
So does that mean they're part dual monster, like android, or
No
part...
fucking clue. It's never really explained. Also,
this makes no sense.
they look amazingly stupid. They hold, in my opinion, the trophy for stupidest looking thing ever created. And especially because they're dual runner, because, you know, this is the card games on motorcycles season. Part of the reason it's excellent. Their dual runner is a chariot that, as far as I could tell, unfolded from their crotch.
I beg your pardon? I think you broke Colin a bit.
I'm so gonna watch this show.
Why a dick chariot?
That's the issue you take with this? Out of everything that we just talked about, that's the issue you're taking. Not the generator that someone for some reason thought was a good idea that inexplicably takes undetermined amounts of energy from a mysterious dueling force that apparently exists in both positive and negative forms. Space aliens exist. People from the future came back in time to tell us that dueling screwed up the universe and that they're going to solve it by doing more duels. Apparently they confused together because they're part robot, part human, not really sure if they're dual monsters. And apparently their genitalia can transform. Out of all of that, you went after the Wang Brigade.
You know, I've always been the one explaining that shit. I've never actually heard it. Like, I would like to just roll back a couple steps and mention this, because I think we passed over it, and I don't know if you know about this, Colin, but I feel like you could go on an hour-long tangent about this only. But I think I did mention, in 5Ds, the primary way they duel is on motorcycles driving around a track while they duel.
I'm sorry?
Okay, that didn't sink in.
Over that.
Yeah, so
what?
They invent a new kind of dueling called turbo dueling, sorry. And they use, as soon as it starts, they activate a field world spell that stays on the field called Speed World. And I actually have a game where you get to do turbo dueling. It's not bad. It's actually a fair bit of fun. But
all right, let me state a few ground rules. I will lose my crap under one of the following scenarios.
Okay.
One, if they are super duper like if there's like levels of box, like this guy has like the best bike in the industry and all that stuff, followed by whether or not you are. I'm assuming this is a race type thing, right? This is a race, right? So
I'm gonna cliffhanger that question for the moment because I'll come back to it. I have a mini tangent about that.
All right, so so if they have like this whole thing where like I have a super duper bike, but the whether or not you are in front or behind of your opponent depends solely on who has the most life points, I will be very upset. Secondly, if they only make left turns.
What? I missed that. I was reading something.
No, okay, it just sort of sunk in what you just asked, and actually I can say both of those things are true, but not in the way you might think.
Why would you? No. First off, if you have motorcycles, race motorcycles. Secondly, if you're racing motorcycles, do something cool. Don't go in a circle.
Okay, so...
Thirdly, why are the duels involved? Why not just race motorcycles?
Alright, mini tangent for this, because... Alright, first and foremost, the standard dual track is a NASCAR track. They don't even try to hide it.
For God's sakes!
In fact, if you go into the 5D story, most of the time, the background is the 5D's race car track. Like, if you look at it, the stands on either side are in an oval. You can tell there's a track around what you can see.
There's not an actual NASCAR race going on in the background, is there?
No, I don't think so. If there was, you couldn't see it. But that's, like, it is a NASCAR track. Mind you, it's a bit cooler because the edges are like a pipe, so they drive up on the sides and whatnot. That's, eh. But anyway, they do things other than, like, they drive in buildings underground. They drive friggin' everywhere sometimes when they're dueling. But if it's a competitive, high-end tournament duel, it's on the NASCAR track.
gayness? First off, okay, another thing. Okay, let's say two guys meet in the street, they have their duel discs out, and they're like ready to duel. Will they go out of their way to get on their bikes to drive a random course around the city?
No, that is one point towards 5Ds is that turbo duels are treated as a separate entity. They do a lot of duels where they're just standing and doing a normal duel. It's only if both competitors have and are on a bike, they'll do a turbo duel.
Okay, so it's not just like we have to duel. Quick, grab a moped.
No, they never do that. But more importantly, there's two bits that you sort of mentioned, and that's the bikes themselves. Okay, well, first and foremost, you mentioned life points and like far ahead.
Yes.
There's a thing in turbo dueling where you have speed counters, and they sort of determine how quickly your bike is going around the track, which has no impact on the duels, but the speed counters, you need to spend them to play spell cards. There's no normal spell cards in turbo duels, there's only speed spells, and they require speed points to play.
I appreciate the mechanic, actually.
Yeah, it's actually quite good, because you gain a speed point every standby phase, yours and your opponent's, and if you take damage, I think it's like every 500 points of damage you take from a single attack, you lose a speed counter. So if a player does get hit hard, they will spin out a little bit and fall behind their opponent. And if a player is...
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can see it.
I don't mind that. The problem is, the show does make a big point of pointing out, like, it's not a huge plot point ever, but it is a minor thing of, like, Greiger, for instance, was the best. There's an episode where one of the guys tries to break into Greiger's garage to find out they heard he has this new dual runner, and they're afraid it'll give him an advantage, and they're trying to break into his garage to see it.
Speed counters determines speed.
Yes. The bike
irrelevant.
has no fucking impact. You could go around in a trike, and you'd be fine. In fact,
I would actually, just for novelty's sake, I would rather go around on a moped.
I'm trying to think. There's a lot more stupid that I'm skipping over. I mean, like, Jaden goes to an alien planet for a little while because he's depressed.
I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah. Jaden.
That's right. He kind of fell into a depression after he became the Dark Lord something.
No. It was just before that. He lost a duel for, like, the first time in his life. And it depressed him to the point that he thought his Yu-Gi-Oh cards were blank white pages. He's the worst loser in history.
Wait, that's right. He was, like, his whole thing was that he never lost a duel ever.
Yeah.
So he loses a duel, and then instead of being like, well, I guess that's part of the game, it's bound to happen sooner or later, he leaves the Earth?
What happens is he thinks his duel monsters abandoned him, and that's why he thinks his cards are just white sheets. There's no card there. So
they're not even
they're
actual
holograms.
monsters.
So he's depressed, and this is when he gets his Neospatians. By the way, he gets taken to planet Neospace by the Neospatians, and he's just like, no, don't give up. Here, have new cards. Fuck your old ones. They lost.
Wait, seriously?
What?
So he trashes his entire previous deck that he went on the world's longest winning spree with?
He didn't trash it, he just stops using it entirely and picks up this Neospace deck, which sucks.
Wait, he just, like, never uses it ever again in the show, period.
He pulls an elemental hero, I think, once in a while, but by and large, yeah, no, his old deck is gone. Never comes back.
And even when you
Can I have it, for Pete's sake? He went on the world's longest winning spree.